Sovereign borrowers are paying back less of their debt. That's according to new research. Economists at the Bank of Canada have compiled a comprehensive database of missed government debt payments that include sovereign bonds, bank loans and credit that suggests arrears default and debt restructuring are far more common than previously thought. Billy Bambrough reports.
The Eurozone debt crisis highlighted that debt defaults are not just the preserve of low-income and emerging market economies. Developed economies are vulnerable too. Economist Özlem Onaran with the University of Greenwich explains why this is a worry.
Our concern is what is the source of the rise in sovereign debt? Sovereign debt didn't increase because countries were engaged in irresponsible spending. In the vast majority of the cases, it has been because of the impact of the Great Recession. It was related to bailing out banks. It was also because of trying to counteract the impact of the recession, and of course there are some automatic stabilizers built in the economy, like unemployment benefits. So in a recession, of course, spending increases, tax revenues decrease. On top of that came the costs of bailouts, and in a way, private debt, or what could have been the private losses of the irresponsible lending behavior of the private banks, became public debt. Now, at the time intervening, such that there is not a major, even a bigger collapse in the global economy, was important. It was important that sovereign states intervened to prevent a Great Depression, and hence we only had a Great Recession.
Wealth manager Jonathan Davis thinks that we've seen these situations before.
What I find very interesting about the research from the Bank of Canada, and incidentally, it came from one of the top economists in the world, Carmen Reinhart, who has written seminal works, is that it shows that, in fact, throughout history, there have been cycles of boom and bust, largely down to whether or not there is easy lending or tight lending. In other words, not much. And what, of course, we've had in the last 20 or so years is not just easy lending, but super, uber, very unbelievably easy lending, which culminated originally in 2008 with the banking crisis. So what we are saying at Jonathan Davis Wealth Management is that, unfortunately, that was not the end of the bubble. That will be seen as merely the hors d'oeuvre, and the main course bursting of the debt bubble is yet to come.
According to Jonathan, Greece is just the beginning of the debt crisis and subsequent problems.
You look at the historical context, it's fascinating because Greece, of course, has been in the news, certainly for years, and in particular for the last 6 or 8 months. And one fascinating fact about Greece is that for the last 200 years, approximately half of that time, Greece has been in default. Isn't that amazing? And here we have a first world democracy in the modern world, a developed country, and it's economically toast. It's bankrupt. And there are many similar examples around the world. So what does it mean to global growth and investing? It means you better watch out, because when you have so much debt in society, in the economy, and a lot of it is never going to be repaid, well, as the economist Meyer said, eventually every single penny of every debt must be repaid, whether by the lender or the borrower. In other words, there is going to be another economic collapse, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm saying it's going to be not just the size of 2008, it's going to be bigger, because 2008 was even less global than the next one will be.
Oslam thinks that we're likely to see more defaults in developed economies, but thinks that private debt also remains a problem.
Starting with Greece, we will start seeing more of these cases. I know your piece is about sovereign debt, but of course with recovery being so sluggish and not being reflected to wages, inequality and poverty is still high, the other issue we will have is private household debt and defaults by the households. I think debt and its linkages with inequality will be one of the most important economic and political risks of the next couple of years.
The picture the research paints is certainly a bleak one. Economies that were star performers in the decade 2013 are now facing declining commodity prices, slower growth prospects, and a possible US interest rate rise. Without the option to lower interest rates further, meeting this emerging crisis will be the next great challenge for the world's finance ministers.
Billy Bambrough there reporting on the world of sovereign debt.